As we told you at the top of the hour, a plane has crash landed in Grand Traverse County.
9 and 10's Bill Froehlich just got to the scene. And Bill, what can you tell us right now?
Hey guys, yeah, good evening. We really don't know much at this point other than we have heard that there are no injuries. Behind me you can see a single-engine Cessna plane. It is a Skyhawk. We're told that the call came in around 5:15 here at the Grand Traverse Civic Center out by the ball fields. And you can see the ball fields behind me and what appears to be a mangled fence from presumably when that plane came down. There are lots of students here from NMC, other flight students, who have told me that from what they can tell, it looks like that plane was trying to come in for a landing, but we really don't have anything official, nothing confirmed, other than we've been told there were no injuries. We've got faculty from Northwestern Michigan College, from the flight school. I've seen the NMC president here, as well as the Traverse City city manager, police and fire, of course. But again, we are still working to learn more details about just what happened here over the past hour at the Civic Center in Traverse City. We'll update you with more on air and online. I'm Bill Froehlich, 9 and 10 News.
Amazing that there weren't injuries. Thank you, Bill. And we will, of course, continue to cover the story.
Yes, we'll check in live with Bill over on our sister station for 9 and 10 News at 7.
Good evening. I'm Andrea Ludema. 9 and 10 News at 7 starts right now. Breaking news out of Grand Traverse County. We have a crew live at the scene of a plane crash, bringing you the latest developments.
This is 9 and 10 News at 7 on Local 32.
Off the top at 7, we're following developing news out of Grand Traverse County. Central Dispatch says a plane crashed at the Civic Center. No injuries were reported, but they are asking people to avoid the area. 9 and 10's Bill Froehlich is live on the scene with the latest. Good evening, Bill.
Hey, good evening. We don't know much quite yet, but I'll tell you what we do know. The call came in around 5:15, according to the Traverse City Fire Department. What we do know, again, it's a single-engine Cessna, and it's issued to Northwestern Michigan College. It's branded with NMC Aviation on the side. And just in the last 5-10 minutes, I talked with an eyewitness who says he was sitting on the field getting ready to go out and play soccer when he saw the plane come in. He says it hit the ground a couple of times, bounced, and then went through the fence at the edge of the ball field and then kind of spun around. He says he is trained as an Army medic. He ran over to the scene and just to go check on both the presumed student and the pilot from NMC in the plane. He says other than some bumps and bruises and shock, there didn't appear to be any injuries whatsoever, and he was able to get them out of the plane. He also says there appeared to be fuel leaking from the plane at the time, but again, no serious injuries. We're awaiting a news conference from the Traverse City Police Department here within the hour, and we will hear more from that eyewitness and the latest official word on the investigation into what happened coming up tonight at 10 and again at 11 o'clock. For now, live in Traverse City, Bill Froehlich, 9 and 10 News.
Good evening. I'm Andrea Ludema. 9 and 10 News at 10 starts right now. More details tonight from the plane crash in Grand Traverse County.
There were a couple people. I just started yelling, get out of the way, run away, move out of the way.
We hear from the man who witnessed the crash and saw the people on board. A fire at the Wexford County landfill, what we know so far. People in Charlevoix will have another detour around the lake when the next project on the Bascule Bridge is expected to start and wrap up. Plus, another popular summer destination could be hard to get to this year, the construction project on Old Mission Peninsula.
From Northern Michigan's news leader, this is 9 and 10 News at 10 on Local 32.
It was surreal. I got goosebumps as I was walking away because too many people could have been hurt.
2 men walked away with just minor injuries after their small plane crashed in Grand Traverse County. The FAA will be in Traverse City tomorrow to investigate the single-engine plane that crashed tonight at the Civic Center. The plane is registered to the flight school at Northwestern Michigan College. It came down outside the Civic Center around 5:30 tonight. An eyewitness tells 9 and 10 News they saw the plane coming in low. They say it then touched down in an empty field before bouncing and crashing through a fence at the edge of the ball field. The single-engine Cessna was a four-seater with 2 men on board, the instructor and a student pilot.
I looked up and then I see the plane coming in really low and kind of fast. There were a couple people. I just started yelling, get out of the way, run away, move out of the way. And they seemed as though they had control, but I could tell that they were coming in for a crash landing.
Blake Williams is an Army medic. He rushed to the scene and tells us the instructor and pilot only had bumps and bruises, but were shaken up.
Good evening, I'm Kevin Essebaggers. 9 and 10 News at 11 starts now.
I just started yelling, get out of the way, run away, move out of the way.
A small plane crash landing at the Grand Traverse Civic Center this evening. Amazingly, no one in the plane or on the ground was hurt. Crews battling a fire tonight at the Wexford County landfill. What we're learning.
A little more moisture in the air has helped knock down fire danger just a little bit, but we do need a lot more moisture out there.
The effort in Missaukee County to identify human remains found in the woods. Who could it be?
With the midterms growing closer, inflation is a huge pain point. I'm Deborah Alfarone at the White House with how President Biden says his administration is tackling this crisis.
And a major repair to Charlevoix's Bascule Bridge will mean a major detour for some drivers next year.
From Northern Michigan's news leader, this is 9 and 10 News at 11.
It was surreal. I got goosebumps as I was walking away because too many people could have been hurt.
2 men walked away with minor injuries after their small plane came in for a crash landing tonight. The FAA will be in Traverse City tomorrow investigating the single-engine plane crash at the Grand Traverse County Civic Center tonight. The plane registered to the flight school at Northwestern Michigan College came down on Civic Center grounds around 5:30 tonight. An eyewitness says they saw the plane coming in low, then touched down in an empty field before bouncing and crashing through a fence at the edge of the ball field. The single-engine Cessna was a 4-seater with 2 people on board, an instructor and a student pilot.
I looked up and then I see the plane coming in really low and kind of fast. There were a couple people. I just started yelling, get out of the way, run away, move out of the way. And they seemed as though they had control, but I could tell that they were coming in for a crash landing.
Blake Williams says the student pilot and instructor on board, they did have bumps and bruises and were shaken up. There are no serious injuries. The FAA will arrive on scene in the morning.
This is 9 and 10 News at noon.
Possible mechanical failure was the reason for the emergency landing.
Northern Michigan's news leader can reveal new details this afternoon about Tuesday night's plane crash in Traverse City. 9 and 10 News brought you live to the scene shortly after the plane came down at the Grand Traverse County Civic Center around 5:30 last night. 9 and 10's Bill Froehlich is back live at the scene this afternoon with the new information we just learned about the crash. Bill?
Hey, David, good afternoon. NMC's aviation department is here today, and so is the FAA. They are on scene, and they are officially taking over the investigation into how this crash happened. What we do know is that the single-engine Cessna is owned by Northwestern Michigan College, and we now know that an instructor and a student pilot from the NMC flight school were on board at the time. Traverse City Police telling me this morning that early indications are that the plane suffered engine failure. NMC hasn't said yet whether the student or the instructor were piloting at the time, but the plane came down in the ball fields here at the Civic Center, and a witness told me last night that it bounced a couple of times before crashing through a fence.
Obviously, the Civic Center at 5:30 at night, there were probably a lot of people. We're very fortunate that the 2 people in the plane were not injured, nor anybody on the ground was injured.
And we're told that the student and the instructor had some bumps and bruises and were shaken up, but had no serious injuries requiring any medical attention. Now, we are hoping and frankly expecting to hear something from NMC later today. If we do, of course, we'll be bringing you those updates and any updates from the FAA on the investigation coming up tonight at 5 and 6. Reporting live in Traverse City, Bill Froehlich, 9 and 10 News.
The plane came in, it bounced a couple times, and then straight into the fence.
The FAA is now handling the investigation into the plane crash at the Grand Traverse County Civic Center. Northern Michigan's news leader took you live to the scene last night, shortly after that plane crash landed. It was carrying a student and flight instructor from Northwestern Michigan College. The FAA arrived on scene this morning. 9 and 10's Bill Froehlich was also back at the scene today, gathering the latest details, and has our continuing coverage.
Well, the plane has now been removed from the scene. Traverse City Police and Fire were the first responders here on the scene, with Traverse City Police handling the initial investigation. Police say, based on statements from NMC, the flight instructor, and the student pilot, there was a possible engine failure. There were no serious injuries to the student or the instructor. Investigators say there is no black box on this plane, but instead there is a flight data recorder, and the FAA will be using that in the investigation.
They'll do a test on the plane. They'll look at the records of the service on that particular plane. That's all handled through the FAA.
The investigation with the FAA and then the NTSB could take a year before a final report is released. But NMC says they could have more information to release once the FAA has its initial findings ready to report, which could come as soon as later today, tonight, or Thursday. Now, we will hear more from the Traverse City Police as well as witnesses that were here at the scene at the time of the crash. That's coming up at 6. In Traverse City, Bill Froehlich, 9 and 10 News.
They're obviously, adrenaline is rushing. You know, they just crash landed a plane.
New details tonight on Tuesday's plane crash in Traverse City involving an NMC student and flight instructor. The FAA was on scene today investigating, and we do know no one was hurt in the crash. 9 and 10's Bill Froehlich continues getting more information as there are still a lot of questions about what happened.
Well, the scene is cleared now as the plane has been hauled off to a secure hangar near Cherry Capital Airport. Law enforcement was here all night keeping that scene secure as the FAA arrived this morning to take over the investigation.
We're very thankful that no one was injured, and we're thankful that there was no one in the way of the plane when it landed.
The single-engine Cessna bounced in the grass at the Civic Center ball fields before crashing through a fence.
My first thought was, thank God he hit the fence, because that did stop him. You know, he could have hurt people that were in the pavilion.
There could have been a soccer game going on or a baseball game going on at that particular time. We would be having a lot different conversation about this whole incident.
Army medic Blake Williams saw the crash and rushed to help.
The student, you know, had the door open and was kind of moving his way out, but they both looked, you know, dazed and confused, obviously.
Based on statements from the instructor and the student pilot that there was a possible engine failure. We'll know more once the FAA looks into the mechanical issues.
The plane was hauled away and taken to a secure hangar while the FAA does its investigation.
They'll look at the records of the service on that particular plane. That's all handled through the FAA.
And many questions are still unanswered. NMC does say, though, that standard procedure would be that if the student pilot is operating the plane and there is an emergency, then the instructor would take over at that time. Now, a full report from the FAA and ultimately the NTSB could take up to a year to complete. In Traverse City, Bill Froehlich, 9 and 10 News.
Michigan State Police say a distracted driver caused a crash on US 127 when he ran into a construction vehicle towing a trailer. Troopers say the man was looking at his GPS. It happened near Canoe Camp Road.